Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I appreciate
Of
it.
course. Yeah, no worries. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. I gotta say, I saw the show opening night. It was fantastic.
Oh, yay.
I loved it so much more than I thought I was ever going to. Like this, I missed when you guys came through town, so I was very excited to see it this time, and
Yeah.
I cannot stop talking about it. It's so such a
Oh. Oh my
um
gosh. Well, I'm so glad that you got to come. Thank you for being here. Did you know anything about the show before you
I
saw it at all?
I did. Yeah, I know we had done some fun promotions for this before, and so I had done a little bit of background, but and I wanted to see it the last time it came through town, but I missed the opportunity to, and
Yeah.
this was perfect. I was really excited.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, well, we're happy to be back here. Yeah, we were in Dallas for 2 weeks before we got here, and that was where we shut down 2 years ago, which is so crazy. And so we were there on the 2 year anniversary of our COVID shutdown, and it was so surreal. So it's like being back in Texas is a very like therapeutic thing for everybody to be like, oh my gosh. And of course, this is my hometown. This is where I'm from. So
And
so
no,
it's great to like, yeah.
I was about to say, does that put extra pressure? Is it just exciting being back home performing for the
I
home?
mean, it is a little bit of pressure, but like probably in the best way, And I grew up studying at the Humphrey School, right? That's attached to Tuts, and so it's very much like a homecoming, for me. So I know I haven't lived in God, I haven't lived in Houston for 17 years now, so almost half of my life, but it's still home, home is home. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, for the people that may not be familiar with Come From Away, can you just give like a quick, brief summary? What is Come From Away?
Yeah, so Come From Away is a show about how on 9/11 the American airspace was closed, and there were all of these planes flying around that had nowhere to land. And so there's this tiny town in Newfoundland called Gander, and they have this massive airport that used to be a stopover point for the Allied forces in World War II. Before jet fuel was invented. And so when that was invented, the airport became obsolete, but was rendered obsolete. But then on 9/11, with all of these planes, they needed somewhere to land. And that was the biggest amount of space where 38 planes could land. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I,
yeah, and then this tiny town of what is it? It's, 9,000 people rose up and took care of all these stranded passengers.
it's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an amazing story that I think, there's so many times that people, when you think back to 9/11, you don't think about stuff like that. I mean, everybody's
No.
happens on the ground, but you don't think about, okay, so there's all these people that were still in the air traveling. What happened to those guys when everything shut down?
Yeah, no, it's so true. You don't think about that. Well, and especially because so much of it was about like where were you on that day and what loss did you incur, of course. And which is of course, we always want to pay respect and honor that. But it's, this is a really out of all of the loss and the chaos that happened, this is a really beautiful thing to come out of it. That there were a lot of people who were affected by it in a different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
One of the things that I really thought was pretty incredible about the show and the cast is the fact that, I mean, you're not just playing one role in the show. I mean, you guys constantly flipping back and forth between, now I'm a resident of Gander, now I'm one of the Come From Aways. And how hard is that to kind of master when you guys are first getting introduced to the show? And by the way, you're playing 7 different people today. So.
I mean, this is the most challenging piece of theater I've ever done. It's a lot for me. And also for me, because I'm not only the dance captain, but also a standby, I cover 5 of the 6 female roles. And so that's just a special sort of like mind soup that happens there. Right. But on Tuesday night, I was playing the reporter. I was playing Janice. And
You're great, by the
what,
way.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. She's so much fun. It's such a blast. The thing that helps me personally, especially because I have a dance background, is because it's the physical life of each character of like, where do they hold their weight? Where do they shift? Where do they hold their shoulders? Are they tense here? Are they tense in their arms? Are they tense in their hands? Like what are the different physical characteristics that whenever I shift into that physical, I can automatically shift into what is the accent here? What are they experiencing in this moment? I want to give a shout out personally. I think one of the people that's so great with this is Nick Duckart, who plays Kevin J and Ali, because his characters are both so his two main characters are so prominent in the show, and his physical shift is really pronounced between the two of those. It's cool. So that, I know some people really rely on that. But for some of us, it's just mechanical. Some people really depend on the accent there. It's like, oh, this is what's happening in this moment. But it's a lot. It's really complicated. Yeah, but it also helps to know that everybody that's on stage at the same time is going through the same thing, and we're all kind of like, who am I in this moment? And so it's a collective sort of panic. But
it's good.
So
it's like an
it's nice to
on-stage
have support.
existential crisis for everyone involved.
Oh my God, for sure. Yeah.
But it's really impressive from down in the seats. So at least you guys know that it's really, really impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I do have to ask, when you first became a part of the show, like how long did it take before you finally saw like a full production of the show?
So I became involved in the show in 2016 when I did it at Ford's Theater down in DC before I went to Broadway. And I didn't see the show because at that point it had only been at La Jolla Playhouse in San Diego and in Seattle. And I think it was at Seattle Rep. And so I hadn't ever seen a fully staged production of it at all, because it just wasn't, I hadn't really heard about it yet before it came really big. And so it was the first time that I actually saw it was, on stage at Ford's. But also, I will say, I remember the very first day of rehearsal, most of the people that did it in DC, were a part of the two previous productions, or at least one of the previous productions. And so I remember on that first day, they did a read through and a sing through of the script and the score. And I was so overwhelmed. It was the most incredible thing to hear all of it and to hear all of the accents and to hear all of the music. And we didn't have a full band at that time, so I didn't even get the full scope of like all the instruments and everything. And then I didn't even know all the staging, which the chairs are crazy. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's so insane. It's really nuts. And as dance captain, I also teach the show to people. So it's like teaching it is just like, it's wild. So I didn't know, when I first listened to it and I first got sort of that, but it was so magical even without all of that. It was really cool.
That's amazing. And I love that you bring up the chairs too, because I remember watching the show going, it's like, man, I mean, you really draw the audience in, and I know that there is like trees and you have the band on stage, which I think is super cool. But I mean, 90% of the set is really this group of chairs that you guys are working with. And I'm like, they're doing so much with so little. It's fantastic. Like, it's amazing.
It's so each of the chairs are numbered 1 through 14. And we all have different ways of remembering which chair is which number. It's different for everyone. But the crazy thing about the set, which I so wish that we could do backstage tours, but because of COVID right now, it's something that isn't possible, of course. If you walk onto the stage, it looks like somebody shot off a confetti cannon on a 10-minute break, because there are spike marks in all different colors all around the table. And each color of spike represents a different scene. And so you'll have these 2 rows of 6 for the planes. So for the first plane, the numbers on the spike marks correspond with the number of the chair that gets placed on those spike marks. But for the second plane, they don't correspond. Each chair is on a different spike mark that was not on that spike mark for the first one that corresponded with. It's really, so there's so much about the staging with the chairs that like, it's actually like some of the direction in our blocking Bible will be like, make sure that the back right leg of chair 2 is on the gray 6 spike, and you don't use the gray 6 spikes anywhere else in the show except for the top of the show. So it's even more crazy than you think it is.
Hearing you talk about this makes it sound like a game show challenge. I swear, like, not only are you playing 6 different people, you're also going to have to figure out this incredibly complicated system of confetti pieces.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's really, putting the show together. We put the show together 4 years ago in August of 2018 when we first did the tour, but then we had to put the show back together when we were in rehearsals last fall. And there were some people that were like, I think this is where it goes. like, like, what's happening here?
I love crazy.
Yeah, relaunching the tour was nuts. Yeah.
Here's a real question. When you join the show, do you have to kiss the fish? Is there like a ceremony for bringing in new people?
So, yes, like not necessarily officially. So, first of all, the screeching ceremony is actually a lot longer than what it is portrayed in the show, and there are a lot more elements involved. And the kissing the fish is really disgusting, but it's not actually the grossest part. But yeah, so the show was in Ottawa in the fall of 2019, late summer, early fall of 2019. And we had some people coming and going from the show, just sort of overlapping over the weekend. And so Oz Fudge, the real Oz Fudge, and then Brian Mosier, who is part of the inspiration for Janice, actually. He was a reporter in town, which is where Mosier, her last name, comes from. Brian and Oz were in town, and so they decided to do a full screeching ceremony with all of us.
Oh, wow.
And it was wild. There's a lot. There's a part of it. I don't want to get into all of the details because I know we're pressed for time, but there is a part of it where you actually have to eat a miniature salted cod, and you actually have to eat it head first.
Is there a reason that it has to be head first?
I wish I could give you the specific reason for it, but I think that I can't because I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you're officially from Gander now.
And I have a certificate to prove it. They gave us all like Newfoundlander like certificates, and they signed them and everything. And we're like, I'm officially a Newfoundlander. Screech truly is disgusting. Screech is not delicious, as Diane says. It's not the most. Sorry if I offend any Newfoundlanders that might see this, but yeah, it's not my favorite spirit, to say the least.
Oh. Well, maybe it's something that they should add to the lobby before the show. Be like, you can be very authentic with your performance tonight. Try a...
Oh, man. Woo! Well, I will say they do sell shot glasses at the merch stand. So I would say go get one of those. And maybe so you can enjoy Screech at home if that's something that you're so inclined to do.
There you go.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of the show?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. I mean, honestly, Screech is so fun. It's really, and it's also sort of like a turning point in the show, especially when you're doing the show. It's really like, it's an exhausting number. It's about 6 minutes long. It's the longest number in the show. Actually, that's not true. 28 hours is the longest number in the show. But it's just fun. And it's also, everybody's on stage all the time in the show. No one ever really leaves the stage very much for longer than a couple of minutes. But this is a number where everybody is on stage interacting with each other. And so that's a really fun sort of community number where everybody's there. So that's really fun to do. I would say, I'm trying to think of what's the most fun to watch. I really love watching cardiologists because the men are their facial expressions are hilarious. It's really fun. And, of course, I love all of them. They're dear friends. And to see all of them just be absolutely ridiculous in that moment is very enjoyable. It's really fun. Yeah.
Well, and I definitely, I wasn't expecting to be like I'm not gonna lie, in the first 10 minutes, even just when we initially were, you're hearing about, okay, this is happening, this is what's going on. I remember getting a little bit emotional thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are, a few parts where I definitely feel like there are some tears, but for the most part, you are laughing and you're really up people's spirits with this show. And I mean, I feel like that's, a huge part of the show. I mean, I normally end with this question, but I kind of feel like we've answered it in so many different ways, but I'm still going to ask it anyway, because that's
where... Yeah, of course.
So why do you think people need to see Come From Away?
Because I think that it's cathartic. I think that it's, in addition to being something different than anything that you've ever seen, I think that it defies expectations in so many ways. One of the things that I think about a lot, when I did the show on Broadway, we had New York firefighters coming to see the show. And we were warned by our creative team, like, we're going to have some people that may have a really visceral emotional reaction that may need to come and leave, they may need to up and leave the show. And, but what I come back to always about the show is people like that who were on the ground and lost so many people, lost family members, lost friends, lost colleagues, and saw firsthand the horror of what happened that day, especially in New York. Yeah. And those are the people that I find often, and it's not true for everyone, but often those people are really so like, this was a new memory for me surrounding something that was one of the worst days of my life. And I think that the way that the show is written is it handles something so difficult in such a tender way. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so special. And it touches on, the only time that you really see everyone's reaction to what happened is when we're all during the song Lead Us Out of the Darkness and everyone's just looking at the TVs and you don't even see what happens when everybody gasps, but what they're seeing is a plane hitting one of the towers, right? And so that I love the way that it is, because the way that the show is done, because it's something that's like, we acknowledge how difficult this is, but let's honor what was found through it. Like that, one of the last lines in the show, tonight we honor what was lost, but we commemorate what we found. I think that's why people should see it, because it is a celebration and a mourning. It deals with it really beautifully.
I think that I could not have said that any better. That was well, Jane, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Of course. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You guys go check out Come From Away. It's going to be playing now through April 3rd at the Hobby Center. Tickets are available at tuts.com. You will laugh, you will cry, you may even kiss a fish. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe you will.
But thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch y'all next time.